All right.
Good morning, everybody. Blessings from Ananda, Monterey Bay. My name is Satya. Joy to be here on Masters anniversary of his mahasmadi, a day of full of love and a day full of letting go. And with the topic of forgiveness, can't get much better than this. Glad to be here. So, with our mics muted, let's uh, let's take this opportunity to pray together and invite the presence of our gurus. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashai, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, Paramahansa Yogananda, saints of all religions, we lovingly bow to you all. Help us to keep our lights lit, ever sharing thy light with all of our brothers and sisters, inspiring courage, offering forgiveness, constantly, eternally, being a divine friend to all whom we meet. Om, peace, Amen. I'll have a few chants from Dolores now, and then we'll go into meditation.
This first chant is a song from our friend Leela Devi up at Ananda Village. And the words are from Masters' My India poem, which he was speaking some of that as he left his body. So these are some of the last words that he spoke. Where Ganges woods, Himalayan caves, and then dreamed of. Where Ganges wood, Himalayan caves, and then dreamed of. I am hallowed, my body touched that sun. I am hallowed, my body touched that sun. The Ganges woods, Himalayan caves, and then dreamed of. The Ganges woods, Himalayan caves, and then dreamed of. I am hallowed, my body touched that sun. I am hallowed, my body touched that sun. Where Ganges woods, Himalayan caves, and then dreamed of. Where Ganges woods, Himalayan caves, and then dreamed of. I am hallowed, my body touched that sun. 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 Where Ganges woods, Himalayan caves, and then dreamed of. Where Ganges woods, Himalayan caves, and then dreamed banish my delusion. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusion. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusion. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusion. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusion. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusion. Steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusion. Steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusion. Steal into my heart of hearts, banish my Shri Guru Deva
Let's meditate now, following Yogananda Ji's instructions for superconscious chanting, with our mind at the point between the eyebrows, and our mind engrossed in the B of that chant. Shri Guru Deva Om. Shri Guru Deva Om. Shri Guru Deva Om. Shri Guru Deva. Amen. Let's meditate together. with our minds at peace and our bodies completely relaxed. Listen to these words from Affirmations for Self-Healing by Swami Kriyananda. This week, week number 10, the topic of forgiveness. Forgiveness is the sword of victory. When we forgive those who seek to hurt us, we rob them of their very power to do us harm. Better still, if they respond with love, they will unite their strength to ours, and so our strength becomes doubled. But forgiveness should not be given primarily for its effect on others, but rather for the freedom it affirms in our own hearts. Let no outward circumstance condition your inner happiness. Be not pleased merely when man is pleased. Be pleased rather when you feel God's pleasure in your heart. Let's practice our affirmations now, first out loud at home with vigor, and then in a natural, normal speaking voice, then just in a whisper, and then finally with our gaze at the point between the eyebrows, completely silent, super consciously. So first out loud, all that befalls me is for my good. I welcome any hurts that I receive as opportunities to grow in understanding. Quieter now in a normal voice. All that befalls me is for my good. I welcome any hurts that I receive as opportunities to grow in understanding. Now just in a whisper, as if speaking to your inner conscience, your inner spiritual heart. All that befalls me is for my good. I welcome any hurts that I receive as opportunities to grow in understanding. With our eyes lifted at the point between the eyebrows, super consciously now, all that befalls me is for my good. I welcome any hurts that I receive as opportunities to grow in understanding. All that befalls me is for my good. I welcome any hurts that I receive as opportunities to grow in understanding. All that befalls me is for my good. I welcome any hurts that I receive as opportunities to grow in understanding. And follow along silently with this prayer. Lord, how often the hurts that I have sustained in life have grieved me. Strengthen my power of love, that I surrender all things to Thee, my eternal friend. Om, peace. Amen. I'll have a reading from Raise now with Billy.
You have to unmute, Billy.
Sorry, forgot about that. And now our reading for week 10 from Rays of the One Light by Swamiji Kriyananda. Dogmatism versus common sense. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. In the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 10, Jesus warns, beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Wherefore, by their fruits ye shall know them. Jesus here, as indeed many times during his teachings, counsels people to use their God-given common sense and not to rely on high-flown but undemonstratable claims. Common sense goes beyond abstract reason, for it is rooted in actual experience. Every common sense, however, is deficient when the judgment called for goes beyond sensory experience. Ultimately, what he emphasized always, therefore, was intuitive perception. Thus, he expected more of his disciples than crude common sense, and often scolded them for being too literal minded, as he did elsewhere when they thought his statement, quote, I have meat to eat that you not know of, end of quote, meant that he had steaks or sandwiches secreted about his person. His reference, of course, was to spiritual, not material substance. Words, even though appearing in the scriptures, are no substitute for direct perception of truth. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita says in the 2nd chapter, the sage who knows God has as little need for the scriptures as one might have for a pond when the whole land is covered in flood. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Thank you, Billy. That's a great reading. Today is Paramahansa Yogananda's we want to call it a celebration of his mahasmadi, when Master left his body. But losing the physical body only opened him to an easier way for us to be with him. There's a few of us in this little group who are at least were around and were breathing the same air as Master back in the early 50s, and I firmly believe that was the inspiration. Now the seed was sown back in the early 50s. I got to breathe the air that he breathed, and I think that's helped me and helped a lot of us come up this path. Joy fill our days. Oh, Master, may thy wisdom guide our ways. The time has come for us to see that there's but one reality above the earth and high above. The truth that all is made from love. A love that calls to us to fly above the hills, above the sky, above the storms, above the pain. A land where peace and laughter reign. Master, may thy wisdom guide our ways. Guide all our hopes and all our dreams, past every glow that only seems, into the light, the inner sun, into the truth that we're all one. Help us to find in every hour, in every thought, in every flower, a joy that spans eternity, the truth that makes us ever free. Oh, Master, may thy joy fill our days. Oh, Master, may thy wisdom guide our ways. Oh, Master, may thy joy fill our days. Oh, Master, may thy wisdom guide our ways.
Thank you, Sam. So wonderful. I'll share a whispers. Thou art slowly rising on the horizon of my mind. O Father, I pray that my storm-tossed soul may find the silver lining of thy presence behind the clouds of my indifference. May the moon of thy hope ever gleam upon my heart. Thy inner light slowly rises above the horizon of my mind. Mists of ignorance lift before the moonbeams of thy love. O Father of light, my sorrowing soul beholds rejoicing thy shores of bliss. Jai Guru. So nice to celebrate with everybody here. Masters Mahasmadi, that falls perfectly on a Sunday service with the affirmation of forgiveness. I've been thinking a lot about forgiveness in the past few weeks. There's a movie about a saint, Filippo Neri. I forget the whole title of the movie, but he was a saint who was loving more than the church could handle, typical times in ancient days, maybe even in present days. But his love took a form that was beyond the concept or the conception of what the church was at the time. And so he was put through a bunch of trouble, put through, going through tests, having to meet with bishops to be approved and getting funding taken, all these things. And at the end, they said, Filippo Neri, what kind of discipline, what kind of rules do you have at this church? What's the rules that really? And he said, my experience with rules is that if you have too many, nobody will follow them. So I only have one rule, charity. And in thinking about that, if I apply that same kind of mentality to myself, I just realized it's forgiveness for me. So many other things become smoothed over. So many amazing things become closer to us and within our grasp. And so many troublesome days, so many confusing conversations melt away if we have a willingness to forgive, even if we're not experiencing the love of forgiveness in the moment, even if we have the belief in forgiveness, that will take us so far. That will get us through the most unholy days. That will get us through the most triggering situations. I mean, let's face it, we talk about in forgiveness and the affirmation about the idea of somebody else wanting to harm us. The idea that somebody else who we know or somebody that we don't know is actively trying to harm us. How often does that happen? Really? How often do we find ourselves unable to forgive seemingly coincidental things? Nobody was trying to harm us. Nobody did anything to harm us, and yet we're unable to forgive something. That's today's age. That's what I look at as forgiveness in Dwapara Yuga. In Kali Yuga, it was about, forgiving the arrow in your back or the knife in your belly or the actual war type mentality, that was prevalent, why they had to go to monasteries to meditate. Because if you closed your eyes for too long, somebody would try to take your family or take your, who knows, but now are the days when we come out of the forests and come into the world. Because if we don't start to change, there's not going to be any forests left. But so I digress. Back in the day, it seemed that forgiveness, like, okay, even though you tried to take my kingdom, even though you tried to kill my son, even though, I'll forgive you. That's pretty amazing. But we find ourselves unable to forgive people who have just stepped on eggshells around us, who have accidentally hit a button that they had no idea of. They only have friendship in their heart, and they hit a button, and then we get perturbed. And then we're unable to forgive them, and then oftentimes we retaliate, right? And that's when they're unable to forgive because they're totally confused. I mean, this is what I see in the normal family life of Dwapara Yuga, somebody does something, steps on an eggshell, somebody can't forgive, and then everybody feels surprised and betrayed, and the relationship's over. You start going to a different supermarket. You start going to a different Zoom Sunday service. You start doing whatever you can, but the fact remains the same. That's what happened. And I find that forgiveness is very close to the heart. It's also very close to my heart. I'm much more easy to forgive myself than to discipline myself. I'm much more likely to give forgiveness and to anybody who's going through anything. The discipline's a part of it, but at first, to share that divine friendship that acknowledges the soul as essence, that's untouched by any of this, that's untouched by anything that happened, and that's untouched by anything that will happen. Many of you may have read, I definitely encourage to look it up. It's Masters' letter, "You Must Never Lose Courage." And he wrote a beautiful letter talking about just never losing courage. I'll give you all the good karma you need to get through this life. Never lose courage. I will help you. And I was thinking about that, and then I thought, even just the message, "You are ever forgiven," and if we really receive that, courage wells up naturally. If you really implant forgiveness into a child, saying, little boy or girl, and this is close to my heart with a child on the way, but I want them to know that anything that they can do or any wrong that they commit, they're always forgiven. I will always be there for them. I'll always acknowledge that ever newness in them and never make them think that their identity is based on anything that happened in the past. That they should that the bee of their mind should ever revolve around a mistake of anybody's, let alone themselves, but of anybody's, even if they tried to hurt them. As Jesus says, if somebody slaps you, how many times should I forgive them? 7 times? Jesus says 70 times 7. That's not what the path is about. This isn't about a balanced bank account. This isn't about worldly ways. My ways are higher than your ways. This is about the overflowing of God's consciousness in our very hearts. And that forgiveness is natural. To look at the eyes of anybody who is thinking of the past with heavy eyebrows or a drooping body. Wake up, my friends. Wake up. You're forgiven. There'll be a day that comes that you will see everything in your life in proper proportion, and none of it will matter the way it does now. We have to learn to embrace that kind of huge hong saw that happens when we get really real about what's real and what's important. I read a book once and it talked about the 3 qualities of the heart: to be kind-hearted, to be warm-hearted, and to be light-hearted, you know? And I think if we just get real-hearted about what really matters, you know, and let's not wait until our last breath to see our life in an impersonal viewpoint. Let's do it today. Anybody, I've done this before and I'll do it again if I have to, but anytime where I didn't feel quite right about how an altercation went down. I was in the village and, you know, somebody might have like something on their porch that was made by a child. And over the months it sits outside, especially in the Nevada city sun, and it just gets deteriorated. And there was this deteriorated craft on somebody's porch while I was fixing something. And I was fixing something and it like knocked over and broke. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh my God, it was already broken. It was already like in shambles. It was already like, you know, it wasn't expensive. And so I kind of just like cleaned it up and I kind of pushed it aside and, you know, but I would go into meditation and just like throughout my days, I would have this little flicker in my heart. And I'm just like, one day I sat down in meditation and that flicker came back as I started to do Kriya. And I said, no more. I'm calling her right now. And I said, hey, so-and-so, remember months ago when I was at your house and there was that thing and this and that? And she was like, oh yeah, it's okay. You know, I saw that happen, no problem. But for me, you know, she had already forgiven me, but I was so scared to not be forgiven that I communicated less rather than communicated more. I closed myself off and I didn't forgive and there was a part of me that was willing to remain unforgiven and small and sneaky. And it took about 2 months before I decided to make a phone call. I just couldn't hide anymore. I just couldn't live in that space where something wasn't quite right. I was reading in the AY and I came to Mahatma Gandhi's chapter. He speaks about forgiveness. One should forgive under any injury, says the Mahabharata. It hath been said that the continuation of a species is due to man's being forgiven. Well, first I thought about, you know, continuing our own species. Yeah, we must forgive ourselves. If we become a species full of unforgiving people, we'll annihilate ourselves. But also just forgiving and being helps all species to thrive. You know, it's without being forgiven, it's forgiveness is what keeps a species going. Forgiveness is holiness. By forgiveness, the universe is held together. Forgiveness is the might of the mighty. Forgiveness is sacrifice. Forgiveness is quiet of mind. Forgiveness and gentleness are the qualities of the self-possessed. They represent eternal virtue. I thought about what Jesus said when he said her sins must have forgiven her. Otherwise, she could not have shown such great love. And I looked up other definitions of the word forgiveness, and to absolve is one of them. And that made sense in terms of like, did her sins forgive her? Did she forgive herself and her sins went away? Her sins were absolved. You know, her past was absolved. Her obstacles to love were absolved, forgiven, gone, made redundant. That's a nice way to think about what does it mean to forgive? It means to make whatever you're thinking of forgiving redundant. Make it redundant in terms of the ever new Satchidananda and the joy of divine friendship. And the more that we can forget other people's past and acknowledge their soul in a personal way, the more that we'll be able to do it to ourselves, the more that we'll be able to act in the unknown where it's 50-50 or maybe 70-30, that failure's gonna happen. Doesn't matter. It's the trying, it's the doing, it's carrying that, you know, offering that forgiveness in the form of active friendship and camaraderie and love and family life of obviously that just makes everything that's happening without all the eggshells, without all the things that might make this all of a sudden get super personal and unloving. For what reason? Who tried to hurt who? Who's hurting who? In the last analysis, we smile, even at times where we ourselves made the completely wrong choice. In the light of meditation, and when we feel in communion with silence, in communion with stillness, when God's love and stillness and silence are no longer these concepts that we carry, but this presence that we feel. I sure hope that any one of us present can offer forgiveness to ourselves. And then in that same bhav, in that same glory, to realize that that is what it means to practice the presence of God, to practice the realness of forgiveness, and to not let that, our world thinks that you have to like cut yourself off from satisfaction and make yourself work really hard for it, and then you can be happy. No, we have to actively let go of this very life we think that we have such a huge control of, and just forgive. And it may feel weird at first, and I don't think anybody here it does, but we know what it feels like when we're in public and somebody looks at us and they see that we are not making their past important. We are not making their future important. We're making life important. And that's what forgiveness is all about. If at any point something becomes more important than life, forgive. Make it redundant. Let it dissolve. Let it absolve. And ever, that is the glory of our masters that are saying, forget the past. The lives of all men are gone. Until you're anchored in divinity, don't look to your actions for your source of satisfaction. Look to the masters. Look to the light. Look to the sun. Look to the horizon. Forget everything at least once a day and breathe. Let it be forgiven. Let it absolve. Let it dissolve. And in the end, it's kind of, that's the message when you start the path. The many people feel more forgiveness and more love from Master than they've ever felt in their life. And then we get very spiritually active. We get the Kriya, we do the thing, we become even more active. And then in the end of the day, it's like, you're still forgiven. Nothing's changed. You're still forgiven, but it felt good to try. And it felt good to share that forgiveness with others, to share that love with others as much as we can. It's not about self-saving. We're already there. Forgiveness is already here. It's about trying to share that with as many people as we possibly can. And don't think that's ever going to come unless it starts at home and unless it starts in your personal friendships. It'll be empty shells. It'll be nothing. We have to be willing to have the hard conversations. That's what I find in my life. I was born a doer, and I'm more likely to find the hard conclusion and to just do it even though blah, 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 than to have a hard conversation. Which, what does that mean? To be vulnerable, to say, hey, so-and-so, I don't feel totally good right now, and I don't believe you're at fault, but I'd like to talk about it. That's clarifying, hey, I feel horrible. I don't feel good about this at all. Or do you feel okay about this? I didn't try to have an actual conversation and to say, I don't know what the answer is going to be, but it's the opening up and being willing to not hide from anything, especially if it's within you. So, Jai Guru, everybody. This is something that I think is, the more we think about it, the less it becomes forgiveness. We need to allow the Hong Sa to happen, to allow the spine to be upright, to be friends with our enemies, and to not always agree with our friends. We need to have an ambiance of forgiveness around us, because we do. But if we don't think about it, it won't be there. We could be millionaires in our pocket, but if we don't reach in our pocket, will be beggars. We need to embrace and hold this forgiveness and that lightheartedness that allows other people to do things and to show them that your love for them is not going to change. And I'm not sure what it means when Master says to free others, you have to free, or sorry, to free yourself, you have to free 6 others. I don't know exactly what that means. But when you offer a space for other people to act where they know that your love and your gentleness and your kindness for them is not at stake, when they can play, when they can make a mistake, when they can fall down, when they can say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, and your divine friendship remains unchanged. I don't know what freedom is, but that's good enough for me. And I think that that human freedom, that human love, that human kindness, that human calmness eventually crystallizes and becomes the cosmic calmness, the cosmic friendship, the cosmic experience. Jai Guru, everybody. Let's now, in an effort to share the forgiveness, the love, the light, the friendship, the free-heartedness that we receive, that we dwell in on a daily basis, and that we lose track of on a daily basis. And when we get it again, it's so sweet and it's so real, and it makes that the vantage point for all of our life's experiences, that we can start to share this light and this space that exists within everyone. Let's do healing prayers now and share the blessings of this path, the blessings of meditation, and the blessings of forgiveness with the whole world. Please pray with me. Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all thy children. Thou hast forgiven everyone. Manifest thy healing presence. Help everyone to feel forgiven in their bodies, in their minds, and in their souls. Rubbing our hands together, the sound being the most potent force in the universe, let's let the Holy Om course through us and spread these vibrations with the whole world. God's power, vitality, good health and strength flow through me, flow through me, flow through me. Paramahansa Yogananda Maharaja Ki Jai! Jai Guru, everybody.
Jai Guru.
Jai Guru.
Thank you, Satya.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you, Satya.
Thank you, Satya. Thank you, everybody. Thank
Awesome,
you.
Satya. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're cooking today, Satya.
What's that? Did I make a mistake? Do you forgive me?
No, you're cooking today. That's right.
I tell you.
I could have listened to you for another hour, Satya. Thank you so much. It was so beautiful.
Master has certainly primed the pump today. I think I can't imagine all the glorious SRF, Yogoda Satsanga, Ananda Sunday services and meetings that are happening today with everybody's minds riveted in Master's third eye. Just here we are, and the more we make these lives our goal, the more that it will all be more and more real. Jai Guru. Thank you guys.
Hello to the mystery Kent.
Yes.
Kent and CJ, so nice to see.
Mystery Kent.
Hey, let's not forget, of course, Wednesday night satsang, 6 o'clock.
Meditation.
For meditation and satsang. It's finding that it's a lovely break in the week for us to get together. And then let's not forget the Friday night kirtan with our friends from Dallas. This week will be Shivaratri. So if you're up for Shiva chants, we will be doing Shiva chants. And then if you feel so inspired, the village will be having Shivaratri from 7 o'clock our time on until I think at 9 or 10. So they're going to go for several hours. So you could kind of start us. We're pretty early. And we could continue on, and then you could jump over to the village and enjoy their Shivaratri. And I don't know, but I think Palo Alto is doing something. But what I am sure of is that you can tune in to any number of Ananda centers throughout the world and fall into a Shiva Kirtan on Friday.
It'll be a rockin' Friday night.
It's the beauty of the Zoom and the internet is you can join in with kirtans probably on Friday almost the whole 24 hours. So start early in India and then end up with Ananda Village.
But according to my calendar, Shivratri is on Tuesday.
Well, we're going to be actually we're going to be celebrating it on Friday night. And according to my calendar that I have hanging in my room, it is technically on. They have it on Thursday, the 10th. It bounces around.
Right.
So it's about the right time, right space. It's going to be.
Time is meaningless anyway.
Time and space doesn't exist. So if I get ambitious and I do a little research, I may include a lot of this in the newsletter, if anybody reads it.
I do.
We do.
We do. And also, I wanted to say that we got a letter from the IRS, so we'll be opening our checking account.
Between the two.
Hey.
So that's pretty exciting. And so we'll be able to take more donations, and we always appreciate them, but we'll be setting up all the accounts, the PayPal accounts and so on this week, probably. Right, Sam?
I'm sitting here waiting. I just needed an account number, and we're going to fill everything out and get everything started again.
Yeah.
We'll do a PayPal or PayPal giving, which is for the nonprofits, and then we'll also reestablish our Amazon Smile account.
Yeah.
Although
I put Dallas in all this time. I could switch it back to ours.
So we'll create a PayPal Smile account, not PayPal, Amazon Smile account. So every time you buy something with your Smile account, they donate a little bit to our group. So it's not a whole lot, but it's better than nothing.
Something.
Yeah.
Great.
And I know we just got our second shots, and I'm sure that lots of people are starting to get their vaccinations, and we're starting to see a trend, things beginning to roll out. I don't want to go crazy and start looking for a space, because I don't think we're ready for it. But if you see something that looks unbelievable, you should go look at. All right, now we just keep our eyes open. I think it's time for us to open our eyes and look to see what's out there and start a little exploration. I don't think we should make any commitment for maybe even another 6 months. But if something is out there that's absolutely perfect, maybe we could work something out.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be able to get together. I know, I'm looking at Sean going, it's nice, and she's got a nice big hat on, so she must be nice and sunny in Santa Cruz. Uh, we can meet in her backyard if she would volunteer again. And I would just love to see y'all, at least maybe if nothing else, once a month. And then we can continue the online.
Like that.
But let's keep our eyes open for a new home for Ananda Monterey Bay.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Sing out with joy.
Bye. Yeah.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.